Welcome to another Mission Models painting tutorial. In this episode, we'll be focusing on the 28mm or 156 scale bolt action tabletop miniatures. We'll take you through the workflow so you can create a stunning wargaming piece or display model. Let's get started. The first step in painting our 56 scale or 28mm Rubicon Models Crusader is primer. So let's get started. We're using the Mission Models MMS003 gray primer. What we're going to do is we are going to add 30 drops of primer to a 1 ounce epoxy mixing cup. We're going to use the Mission Models MMA003 thinner, which comes in two sizes, both a 2 ounce and a 4 ounce. So you've got MMA003 in a 4 ounce and MMA002 in a 2 ounce. So we've got our epoxy mixing cup. This is a 1 ounce cup. So it's either 30 milliliters, 1 ounce or 30 milliliters, depending on where you live. So we're going to take our thinner and we're going to add about 6 to 8 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're just going to mechanically stir it up, just like that. And you have to thin our primer because the thinner is what activates the primer and makes it work the way it does. We are using a Harder Steenbeck Evolution with a 0.2 needle and nozzle. We are spraying between about 12 and 15 psi here. We've adjusted at our MAC valve, or you can adjust at your compressor. Always test before you spray. And let's get going. Apply nice light wet coats. Just like that. Just be nice and methodical. Some nice even coverage. Our primer will not hide any details at all. All right. This will dry to a nice, durable, smooth finish. Put that over there to dry. And now we'll move on to our tank. Nice, quick, even, methodical passes. Add a little bit more primer there. Make sure you get some nice solid coverage. And we'll just pick it up. Get the undersides. This will be dry to the touch in about 20 minutes. You can accelerate the drying time to the touch by just using cold air if you need to. But the primer is thoroughly and technically dry after about, I'd say, maybe 12 hours. We're talking about scientifically and technically cured. But if it's dry to the touch, you can keep on going. So we're going to set this aside. We're going to let it dry. We'll be right back. So we're cleaning the airbrush, and what we're doing is we're using this squirt bottle. This is just water. Okay. Squirt it out, spray a little bit through, dump that out. Okay. Then we're going to take just a few drops of our thinner right into the cavity of the airbrush there. Swirl it around, spray a little bit through. And sometimes what we like to do is just take a Q-tip and just get a little bit of extra out of the cup there. Never use alcohol, never use lacquer thinner, Windex, windshield wiper fluid, brake fluid, or any kind of alternative thinners, because you will create a conflict with the paint at your color change and so forth and cause yourself a lot of grief. So just do your first flush through with water. And again, clean, and just a few drops of thinner down in the cavity and just spray it through. Dump it out. If you have a little bit of residual on the needle, just carefully wipe it off. Being sure not to bend your needle while you're doing that. Okay, so it's clean, ready for a color change. Okay, so we're back. Now, we've let our primed Crusader dry off to the side. All right, and you can see it's ready to go. Primer. So our next step, we're going to take Mission Models Tire Black. That's MMP 040. We're going to paint our tires and some of the tracks here. Let's get started. So we always like to start with 30 drops of paint. Because we do this all the time, we know exactly where the 30 mark is. You can eventually start to eyeball things, but we're doing this so we can go quickly. We take our thinner. Now you can see how thick the paint is. All right, but once we add our thinner, it's going to break it right down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so we've got 8 drops. Go 6 to 8 drops of thinner. We're going to add our MMA 001 polyurethane mix additive. The mix additive will add increased durability and adhesion properties to the paint. This is perfect for tabletop war gamers who frequently handle the models, so the paint will not wear off at all. It's awesome. We highly, highly recommend using it no matter when you spray. So we've got our 30 drops of Tire Black, which we thinned with between 6 and 8 drops of Mission Models thinner, and we're going to add 6 drops of polyurethane mix additive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's all you need. It's very quick, very easy, and just stir it up like that. And you'll see here why we're doing this Tire Black first. We've got our airbrush. We're going to take the cup off because we don't really need a lot. You'll see how far the paint goes. Again, we're spraying between about 10 and 15 psi. Always, always test before you shoot. And you'll notice how we've got some clear, nothing spraying through here. That's thinner and water. So you always want to just make sure to spray that through so you're back down to pure paint. So here we go. So basically what we're doing here is we're painting our tires, and we can hit the tracks too, but we're going to go back in later and we will do the tracks. We're going to do, I'd say, probably 90% of this model all with an airbrush. Let's get the back sides too. Careful not to touch the wet paint. All right. Show you how quickly and efficiently you can do this. So, got our Tire Black laid down. It's okay if you get a little overspray up on your side skirts and so forth. We're going to cover that anyways. Okay? So we're going to let this dry. We're going to clean the airbrush again. Okay, so we're back. Underneath here, we've got our Tire Black. We've painted our tires and wheels, and then what we did off camera is we just took some Post-it note strips. You can use whatever, index cards, doesn't matter. We just slipped them underneath the side skirts, just so we don't paint our road wheels by accident. Not a big deal anyways, but you'll see why. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do our base coat. In this instance, we're going to use number MMP 039 British Sand Yellow. Even though our title is a modern armor color, it's a perfect desert color as well, World War II. But we do have a complete series of British World War II armor colors as well, such as Portland Stone, all that kind of stuff. So again, like we did before, we're going to add 30 drops of paint. And we're going to add our thinner. You can see the consistency of this here. And we're gonna add 6 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, we're just gonna stir that up a little bit. That's all you gotta do. We're gonna take our polyurethane mix additive. It's optional, but we always recommend it. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's all there is to it. It's really quick, very simple, very easy. What we're also doing is we're kind of going off the box top of the Rubicon Models Crusader here. As you can see, there's our match. Close enough. All right, so we've sprayed, we've mixed up our paint. We've got our airbrush, our Steenbeck Evolution with a 0.2 needle nozzle. Just pour it right in the cup there. You don't have to fill the whole cup up. And again, always test before you spray the model. Make sure everything's good. And here we go. Quick, easy, nice methodical passes. Don't try and just sit there and cover everything in one go. And it's all right if we get a little bit on our tracks and so forth, because we're going to go back in and paint the tracks anyways. Light, wet coats. Again, your paint will be thoroughly and technically dried after 8-12 hours. The polyurethane will absolutely increase the durability of the paint, especially when you're handling the models. All right, so just flip it over a bit. At the bottom side. All right, get the inside of the road wheels, underneath, the bottom of the tank. Right, we're not really going to see the bottom, so we're not so concerned with maximum coverage. A little more paint. Just let that sit for a second. Our paint will not hide any kind of details whatsoever. It dries like a second skin. Take the turret. Again, don't sit there and try and cover in one pass. Just feather it on for a nice smooth finish. Okay, so what we're gonna do is get one more pass there. Let's let this dry off to the side for a moment. We'll be right back, and then we'll do one more quick coat. Okay, so we're back. We let this dry a bit off to the side. It's dry to the touch, but we're gonna give it a few more passes anywhere that we might have missed. Where you can maybe see some light spots where the primer is showing through. And using an airbrush is really the most efficient way to go, whether you're an advanced modeler or you've got years of experience with an airbrush, or you're a beginner. If you just follow our steps when it comes down to painting, cleaning the airbrush, and so forth, you'll find great success and a nice, beautiful model. So I think that's about it. I think that's pretty good. Just double checking here. See how smooth the paint is. Maybe hard to tell, but these are nice, light, wet, thin coats. Nice coverage. Let's get that in there. All right. Just check your work. Check for coverage. As the paint dries, it will be the proper color. When it's wet, it appears a little darker, just as if you poured water on concrete. When it dries in the sun, it dries back to the original color. All right. Okay, we're back. We let our model dry off to the side, off camera for about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, just so you guys didn't have to watch the grass grow and the paint dry. So our next step, if you remember, we painted everything here tire black. All right, so now we're gonna do our road wheels. They're alternating colors pretty much. So the first one is gonna be our sand color. The second two will be a black, and then we'll go back to our desert sand color. We're going to take this circle template here, and we're just going to kind of carefully position it the best that we can, and also so we can stay out of the frame. We've switched airbrushes. We're using a Harder Steenbeck Infinity with a .15 needle nozzle. We've already put paint in there, same paint that we were using before. Always test before you spray. And let's start clouding that in there. Go straight on. All right. Put the airbrush aside. Here's our first road wheel, and we will go back and clean up the tires a bit a little later on when we do our washes and so forth. And you're going to want to just kind of carefully, position that in there. If it's not perfect, don't worry about it, because we'll show you again how to clean it up. And we're going very fast, so to try and keep the video short. I'm at a kind of a funny angle, so I can't quite tell if I'm 100% on. And let's, just for the fun of it, let's see if we can't find a smaller circle here. Get in there, and so we'll get a little on our tracks there, but we can go in and we're gonna clean that up anyways. A little bit of variation, and it'll be all right. Let's flip it over real quick. And again. Again, I'm on an angle here, so I can't see 100%, because if I lean over the work, you guys won't be able to see what I'm doing. And be careful on your previously painted wheel. And again, it's okay if you get a little paint on your tracks there. And you can also freehand your road wheels there. So again, we're gonna let this dry for a moment, and we will be right back. Let's flip this over one more time. Just a little patience, a little control, and you can easily do it without a circle template. Again, like I said, I'm off to an angle, so a little tough, but there we go. We're gonna let this dry. We'll be right back. We're gonna move on to our black next. Okay, we're back. So what we've done is we've done our preliminary paint job on our wheels. As you can see, we got a little bit of overspray on our tires, and you can control that. If you're using the circle template, you can be a lot neater. But then again, like I said, we're going to clean this up. It's very quick. It's very easy. So you can either freehand your road wheels, or you can use a circle template. Either way is fine. So our next step is we are going to paint these two road wheels in Mission Models number 105 worn black. Okay, so it's sort of a faded out black. It's got great coverage. Let's get going. We've got our 1 ounce epoxy mixing cup, or 30 milliliters. We're gonna again add 30 drops. Like I said, we know where the 30 drop mark is because we do this so often. The more you do it, the quicker you can start eyeballing. We're gonna again take our thinner. We're gonna add 6 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're gonna take our polyurethane mix additive, and again, we're gonna add 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this is quite a bit of paint here, We obviously don't need this much paint just to do these 4 road wheels, so we're going to also save this paint to do our camouflage. And we'll just stir it up like that. All the paint has a slightly different viscosity because we don't pre-thin anything at the time of bottling, so there's no shelf life on the paint, no inconsistencies, nothing. So it's great. Very easy. And it's a little bit thick, so let's add a couple more drops. 1, 2, 3, there we go. All right. Paint's very, very quick and very, very easy to use. It's pure water-based acrylic. It's ultra durable, fast cleanup. Give you a beautiful smooth finish. Keep your airbrush clean, you'll have no clogging. You can spray all day long. All right, so here we go, we're ready. So let's start doing our next road wheels. Check your air pressure again before you hit the model. And here we go. We're just gonna freehand it right in there. If you get any overspray with the black, don't worry about it. You can always go back and touch that up, which we'll do. Again, test. This little bit of overspray that we got here, we can use that as our starting basis for our camouflage. So we don't even have to really go back and touch it up. Worn black is a great faded out color. Paint is extremely opaque, so it'll really cover everything and anything. All right, so there's our worn black on our 2 other tires and wheels. So we'll let that dry for a moment. We're gonna clean the airbrush. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and we let our road wheels dry, and off camera we took some post-it notes, just cut them into strips, tucked them over under the side skirts here so we don't spray our next color onto our sand colored road wheels. Just kind of keep it clean. Those little extra steps go a long way. We're going back and we're using our MMP number 105 worn black, and we're going to do our camouflage. Again, we're using the same airbrush, Harder Steenbeck Infinity with a .15 needle nozzle. So let's get started, and we always test before you spray, and here we go. And if you're not comfortable, you can always use a paint mask. We're spraying between about 10 and 15 psi. The noise you hear is the air hitting the surface and the paper. Just go slow. Take your time. You can clean up anything that you don't like a little bit later. We're looking at a little bit of reference off to the side. And what we're going to do, just so things are uniform, actually what we're going to do is we'll bring this up just a little higher. There we go. That looks pretty good. Excuse my arm there. We're gonna put the turret on real quick. Be careful because the paint's still wet. This way we can bring it. There's always gonna be a lot of maneuvering. So again, test. See where we are. Go slow. And again, we always say test before you shoot, make sure everything is good, and check out your reference. A little fill there. And again, just take your time. And if there's anything you're not happy with, you can always go back, fix it up a little bit. I'm gonna try and get in under the turret there. And there we go. Looks pretty good. And we'll probably go back in with a little bit of yellow and maybe just adjust some of this, and you'll be able to see the how the lighter colors will then, whoops, cover the darker colors. All right, so we're gonna let this dry for a moment, and again, we'll be right back in about a second. Okay, so we're back. We've let our left and right sides dry a bit, and now we're gonna kind of do the top of the turret. But again, always test before you spray the model. If you're using a really fine needle nozzle, really any airbrush, you want to just kind of make sure the tip is clean, that's not clogging. You just want to make sure that you remove any kind of residual paint off the needle, so that when you actually start spraying, you don't throw anything that off the needle onto the model. So anyhow, we'll test, and here we go. Take your time. Let it dry, and we'll go and probably adjust that pattern there. We're going quickly. Flip it around and do the back side. We're not really going off of any particular pattern here. Feather it in there. Kind of let it dry. Let's just do the side here a little bit. I said, we're not going off any particular reference. We're just kind of having at it. There we go. It's all about fun. It's all about taking your time, learning, and painting an awesome model. The more you do it, the better you're going to get. So that's our basic camo pattern here. All right, so we are back, and we're gonna just do a little bit of cleanup here on the camouflage. Just make some adjustments to where I didn't feel kind of satisfied with the pattern. Show you how you can do that real quick. We've taken our base coat, our MMP 039 British sand, and put it back in the airbrush. Again, we're using the Harder Steenbeck Infinity with a 0.15. Again, always test before you spray, and let's get going. I wanted to kind of narrow this up a bit, so I'm gonna hold my breath and do it. Try and spray away from the darker colors so you can eliminate some of the overspray and keep your black clean. But you know, again, we can always go in and take care of that as well. See how we're starting to narrow it. We're going to let that dry for a moment so we don't get too much paint in there. Let's put the turret back on and see where we match up, or how we match up. See, so again, little test there. Go easy. Take your time. Trying to stay out of the camera angle there. It's not easy. Whoops. All right. So we're gonna let that dry. We got a little bit too much paint on there. Not a big deal. You just let it dry. It'll do its thing. This is a delicate operation here. It's starting to look better already. So let's move away from that there. And we'll flip it over. The paint will self-heal. It'll blend itself back together. No need to panic. Again, it's all about trigger control. Get a little bit of black up there. Get in there. We're doing all this in real time. So if we make mistakes, we're just like everybody else. All right, so we're back. We just let this dry off to the side for a moment. Now, if you remember, like I was saying, it's all about trigger control, finger control. I pulled back just by accident a little bit too much, so I let too much paint out right here. That's why we have what's called a preset handle on the airbrush. Just for example, I personally don't use them all that often, but what this does is it allows you to limit the how far the trigger will go back. So if I adjust it to where I need it to be, I can't pull the trigger back any further. So anyway, so I put it back on there, and just to show you guys, but we can kind of fix this that little issue there. It's like it never even happened. The paint is self-leveling. Not a big deal at all. So we're just going to put it on there just for the sake of what we're doing here. Gonna go in there. See, didn't look bad in the first place. But we're just kind of refining things. And again, it's all about speed, distance, air pressure. And it's all coming together. And this is just our base coat. You know, I like to just call it the adolescent stage, just because it's kind of where you're like, oh man, what's going on here? And then you start to refine, clean things up that you don't like. Quick and easy. So I'd say it's pretty good. Just kind of go in here. Define that just a tad. Yeah, better, I think. All right, we're gonna do a quick color change, real quick. Okay, so we're back and we've basically cleaned out our airbrush, cleaned the black out of there, and I'm just gonna, I'm sorry, the desert sand. I put a little bit of black back in here and just a little bit of that overspray. Not a big deal. Get in there. Take your time. Get in there. Just a little bit. It's not even necessary, but I'm just doing it anyways. Just a little bit of overspray. You know, that overspray would end up going away anyways. we wouldn't even notice it by the time we're done. Again, test before you shoot. This will be the last of the camo. Just double check your work. Last minute touch-ups. Any odd spots. I'm not going by any reference really, so when in doubt, just test. Double check. I think we're pretty good. Look, a lot of this stuff was done in the field anyways, so it is what it is. All right, so we're gonna clean the black out of the airbrush and we're gonna move along and we're gonna start refining the tires and the wheels. Where you remember we had that overspray on there. Some of our reference showed it coming up a little higher. So we're just gonna do that real quick. Just kind of come up. There we go. All right, let's leave it alone. All right, so we're back and we've removed the turret, as you can see. We've removed the post-it note strips that we use to mask off our tires and wheels. And we're gonna show you two different ways that you can clean up your road wheels. First one we're gonna do is we're just gonna airbrush it in there. Then we can go in and we can carefully touch things up. But we'll really refine them. Again, always be sure to test. Okay, so we have sprayed the centers of our wheels again, but like I said, we're going to go back and touch these tires up. So the next step, we're going to do our tracks real quick. We're using Mission Models MMP 002 cold rolled steel. Just going to airbrush that in. Again, we have already put it into the airbrush straight from the bottle. We're using the Hardestein-Beck Infinity again with a .15 needle nozzle. Let's just test before we spray. See those fine lines that we can get, and let's just have at it. Take your time. And remember, this is a desert vehicle, so, you know. Just go nice and light. Just careful. You see that overspray on the paper there? That's because we're just spraying at the edge of the spray pattern. That's what we want. Carefully. Just gonna get in there. So there's the basis of our tracks. If you can see, I know they're dark, but we used cold rolled steel. You can see how the spray pattern looks like it's missing, but it's not. We're just using the very edge of the spray pattern. And what we can do while we're here, just put a little bit on our exhaust there. And then we'll go back in anyways with a little bit of burnt metallic iron. Kind of doing that as a preliminary there. Just give it a little bit of a slight metallic look for the heat. Right, burn things off. Okay, and we're just doing that because we're going to go in, like I said, with another color here shortly. So we have our cold rolled steel. Put a little drop there on the side. Get the brush out. Since we already have this going, might as well just do that. It's one less step. Yep. All right, looks good. Put that aside. Let it dry. All right, so we've got the basis done here, and we're just going to kind of move along, and we'll start doing some washes. We'll clean up these tires and do various other couple little quick things, and we'll be done. Alrighty, so we're back, and what we're going to do is we've been talking about a few times is cleaning up the tires around the wheels and various other things. So we're going to make a very quick wash here. We're going to start out with Mission Models MMP 040 Tire Black. What we're going to do is we're going to add about, I don't know, 4 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4 drops of paint. We're going to take our thinner and we're going to add 30 drops of thinner. And we're going to stir that up. Usually don't do it right next to the model because if you splash, yeah, you're going to get it all over the model. Anyhow, and it's happened to us many times. And then we just take our water and we're going to add water to about the half-ounce mark. So it's thinner, paint, and water. About 4 drops of paint, 30 drops of thinner, and then water up to the half-ounce mark. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a liner brush, which we like to always use. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll take, where's our paint? We'll take a little tire black and we'll just put a drop to the side if we wanted to bring on a little bit more pigment. Kind of dip the brush into there, dip it into the wash. And, you know, there's a much better method than covering your entire model with an enamel or an oil wash and trying to wipe it all back. Eliminate the mess, less work. Just watch it flow. Just like that. You can actually, if you wanted, you could just paint your tires doing the same thing, just like this. It's quick and it's easy. And you just want to kind of let it dry, typically between coats, and just keep building up. Quick and easy, just like that. Dries pretty quickly, and then just reapply. You can just see it flow. So there's no need to lather your model and douse it in oils and enamels and pre-made washes, because if you use Mission Models, you already have all your washes at your fingertips, and you saw how easy it is to make it. We just did it. You don't have to buy a bunch of other products, toxic products, enamels, various things like that. Because colors are colors. Just because it says Tunisia dust on the bottle doesn't mean that it is. It's just a title. Just use your best judgment. Pick the colors you need. I mean, you can use Dunkelgelb as a sand color. You can use our transparent dust as a sand color. I mean, there's a ton of different browns out there that you can use. We use Japanese propeller brown as a leather color, and a wood color. We use NATO brown as a wood color. It's all sorts of stuff. But we're going very fast here, so just please, you know, take your time. Because if we went really slow, we could have a 3-hour video. But you see how now we can just start touching some of these details here. And we'll tone all that down a little bit later, towards the end. Some various base coats, things like that. Paint is not technically dry, but you see how the wash will just flow just like an oil. I mean, that's all there is to it. There's no cleanup involved whatsoever. It's that quick. Totally time saving. Easy. No smell. Just clean it right up with water. And we can tone it all down later. When we do some of our very quick filters, you'll see we have a great convincing model. Like we always say, if there's some spots that you're not happy with, you can take some fine cotton swabs, things like this, pointed, soak a little bit out of there. Just kind of move around the model, see what else we can find to kind of touch on. Put the turret back on here in a minute. But you can see, that's all you got to do. You don't have to cover the whole model by any means. And you can just work fast. Just do a little of of this, all that. We'll tone that all back down. You don't want your model to end up real dark and oversaturated with color. A little bit of shadows, a little bit of highlights, a little of this, a little of that, a little depth. It's quick and easy. Around the fuel filter, filler caps, some of the panel lines. So all we're trying to do here is just bring in a little bit of depth, and then we'll tone it all back down. But you can see really how the model's starting to pop. Just lightly just touch it. The problem is that when you take some of these other products, washes, things like that, and you cover the whole model, then you start to affect your base coat, and you lose the original intended color. And you can see how fast I'm going. That's all there is to it, really. We like tire black because it's a nice neutral color. I'm not even sure if that's a filler cap or what it is, but that's what we're going to say it is. So we have, some, where the wash kind of soaked into the paint, because we're just going right directly onto the paint. I'll show you how you can clean that up. It takes about a second. Get rid of it. Not a big deal. Just touch some of these details. It's a desert vehicle, so it will get, bleached out in the sun. Back end there. And you can always thin your wash back down, you just adjust accordingly. Again, like I said, we're going very fast. But this also shows you how quickly you can have a nice model for the game table. Go around and just kind of touch some of these details. All right, so we're back. I just grabbed a couple brushes. I've got this fan brush here, and I've got this wide brush here. I'm gonna clean up some of these little areas. I'm just gonna I just squirted a little bit of water onto this fan brush, and I'm gonna start just kind of manipulating some of the washes. Now this paint is not 100% and chemically dry, so we do want to be cautious at this point that we don't start removing anything. Now we can also go in with cotton swabs. Just start getting rid of some of these little marks. Not a big deal. You can see we can just adjust it just like that. Just be careful during this process, because like I said, paint is not 100% chemically cured. So I'm just kind of blending some of the wash in there real quick. Clean it up. Just real quick. Some downward streaking a little bit. see. So you want to just be cautious. We don't remove it. Use just straight water. If you do this with thinner, at this point, you would probably start removing paint. We don't want to do that. That will just result in heartbreak. So here we are again. We're back, and we've been letting this dry off to the side. And our next step, real quick, is we've taken MMM001 metallic burnt iron. Okay, and we're just going to quickly. Remember, always test before you spray. We're going to go in as we talked about earlier on, and we're going to start kind of just dusting it in here over our exhaust. So just cloud it in. Here's where the exhaust sort of started to heat the mufflers and kind of burn off the paint a bit. I just let that dry. I know some of these spots you kind of can't see what I'm doing, but sort of doing all four sides there. So we're back. We've grabbed MMW003 transparent light rust. You can do a lot with this. You can spray it right from the bottle, or you can thin it down with the Mission Models thinner to create more of a transparency. We've already put it in the airbrush here. Again, we're going to test. We clean the airbrush, so we're spraying through any residual through. And there's still a little bit of burnt iron in there, which is all right because it makes it kind of a nice mixture between the burnt iron and the rust. And we're just gonna lightly, very lightly fade it in there. We'll get a nice metallic kind of rust look on our exhaust. And you can always go back in and just kind of clean things up. Again, just test before you spray. All right. And we'll just kind of leave that alone for right now. Again, we're going really fast, so let that dry. We're going to clean the airbrush, and then we're going to move on and do a quick filter, and then we'll basically be done. All right, so as we round this paint job out, what we're gonna do is one of our last steps is we're gonna do a quick tint. We're gonna use British Portland Stone, MMP 043, it's RLA 64. And the way we're gonna do that, it's very quick, very easy. We're gonna add about 3 drops of paint, and then we're gonna take thinner, because what we're really doing is creating a transparency, and we're just gonna kinda stir that up a little bit, right? And when you're making transparencies, it's best just, you're going to really want to use your best judgment on this. We don't have there's no real ratio, but what we're doing is we're kind of altering the tonality. All right, test before you spray. It's going to be very thin, it's going to be very light, and like we always say, it may not look like anything's happening, but it is. You want to just carefully just kind of go in. So we're kind of guess what you'd say is we're almost kind of bleaching the paint, where it's going to give it that kind of look just a little bit. And what we're also doing is we're sort of tying everything together, toning things down a tad, toning down, you know, any areas where there might be a heavier concentration of a wash that might be a little bit too glaring, because you really don't want to have a dark wash all over the place. You know, really just kind of ultimately in the end doesn't look real good. Ends up looking a little cartoonish, if you will, when you douse the whole model in, you know, black washes, or I guess what they call streaking or streak grime, or well, I don't know. You want to kind of be, you know, real methodical. And as this dries, you'll start to see the shift in the tone of your base coat. Kind of dust it. One thing we like to also do is give a overall dusting. And what this does is it blends all your colors together. And you want to let it dry. You want to be real subtle with this, go light. You just don't want to overdo it, because before you know it, you'll see a drastic change. But we're just, this from a distance here, what we're doing is like I said, we're blending our camo in with our base coat. So everything's just, so there's not as much contrast. It's just a lot mellower, a lot lighter. Gives the appearance of, you know, that everything is a little bit more uniform, I guess you could say. Let's let this dry for a second. Okay, so we're back. You know, this is pretty much dried off to the side. One thing we forgot to do is there's a shovel back here. We're just using MMP number 115 Japanese propeller brown. It's brown. So let's just get in there. Just kind of do that. I usually have my optivisors, but I don't. So, whatever. Do the best I can. There. Yeah, all right. Yeah, not bad. See where I sprayed a little over. Now you're gonna get, you know, you're gonna get dust and dirt. I mean, the real vehicle's gonna get dust and dirt, you know, on the tires anyways. But, you know, I guess because it's a scale model, it doesn't always translate the same way it would on a real vehicle. It can, just, but depends how much time you really want to take. But like we always say, you know, you want to get to the game table. But, you know, painting your models is just as much fun as games, I think. I mean, you know, really the bottom line is that we could go forever. I mean, we really slowed down and really went slow. We could really take this really far. Okay, so as we were saying before, I mean, we could take this really far. I mean, we could really just keep going and going and going. There's a lot that you can really do with these tanks. And because this is an introductory tutorial and workflow, we didn't want to make a 3-hour video. We will be doing more on 28mm vehicles, 56 scale, and so forth, where we won't be going through the workflow, but we'll take it a lot further and we'll use different techniques and so forth. But just to, you know, pretty much wrap this up, we're gonna take MMM003 aluminum, and what I like to do is just dip my finger in here because I feel like I get more feel, and I'm just gonna lightly We don't like to dry brush at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little on my finger and just kind of highlight some of the tracks just to show just a little bit of wear, right? And then just kind of rub it back. It's going to be very subtle. That's what you want. You don't want it to be real bright by any means. Just want it to be, remember, you want to try and keep things as scale as you can. So it'll be very, very subtle. Right. And then we'll take, again, just real quick, if I can find it, look at all these brushes. We'll just dip this brush back into our black wash, and we'll just kind of tone that down just a little bit. Now we could add rust, we could add our transparent dust. There's a lot. I mean, really a lot. In some of the next videos, when we do, you know, say Sherman or, you know, some of the German tanks or whatever, we'll start using, you know, some of the other techniques. One of the things that we like to do also is just kind of along the top of the barrel, just so it adds just a little bit of reflection. To the top of the machine gun, you know, just go light, don't go heavy. Okay. Just don't want it to be glaring. I want your models to look good. A couple last little things. I'm going to take number 40, tire black, and we're just going to dip this old brush, just a micro drop there, micro drop there, here, here, there, okay. And what we're going to do is we are going to take a brush and we'll just put a little water on it, just lightly dampen it, start pulling some streaks and whatnot down. Okay, if water's not powerful enough, we can use a little bit of thinner, very lightly. Want it to be barely dampened, just. There we go. Just do it quick. Start pulling down some streaks. Right. Take a fan brush, just kind of hit it downwards. Like I said, you want to take your time, really, but we gotta go fast because not everybody has a lot of time. Dip the fan brush. Whoops. Actually, we've got this here back into the tire black, which has been heavily diluted, so it's not real dark. Just light, just quick. Some streaking over the black. Subtle. Fan brush is nice because, you know, it's sort of an irregular pattern there. do it in the direction that the armor plates slope. So let's say it's morning dew or dust or whatever it might be. Let's just call it a day on this. Go back into a little bit of with our aluminum, just for effect, on the finger. Highlight a little bit of our exhaust. Just kind of give a little bit more of a metallic effect. And we're just going to let this dry, and we'll be back, and we're basically done. Let's come back and give our usual closing comments. Very quick, very easy, fun. All right, so here's our Crusader from Rubicon. It's an A15 Crusader, British. And even though the video is about an hour long, in reality we did this in about 30 to 45 minutes, approximately, give or take. We did a quick paint job, some very quick basic weathering, and to show you the workflow. Now, the key to success, as we always say, is to take your time and just really slow down, be methodical, think about what you're doing, and just patience. That's the trick. You know, if you're new to airbrushing, take your time. There is a learning curve, but it's not difficult. Just be determined, and you know, the end game should really to be upping your game, so to speak. Learning techniques, go with your best judgment, experimenting, learning. Mistakes are going to happen. You probably saw that we made some mistakes. None of the videos that we do are scripted. We do them on the fly. If we make a mistake, you see the mistake, but we also show you how to fix it, or we say what happened. It's just the nature of it. It's what model building is. Doesn't matter what type of models you're doing. This is a beautiful game piece. I'd be proud to take it to the gaming table. We'll be doing more videos. So just like I said, time, practice, patience, and that's about it. So anyways, you know, it's great working with you. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon with another video. We're not sure what it's going to be. Maybe it'll be a Sherman, maybe it'll be a Panther. Don't really know yet, but we'll see when it happens. Thanks a lot, and enjoy. Have a good one. Bye-bye.